So I was talking to this guy in the gym, in the sauna, and I talked to him the other day. He got up and left when we were talking about politics, and I apologized to him, and he told me about this place. He didn't even remember, but like, this is so crazy. These buildings are like Christian buildings, and they are massive. There's like a couple of these. These things are huge. I don't know if this is like vacant or what, but these buildings are huge, man. This is like a small town that I reside in right now. There's like cameras out there, but I wonder, like, do they even use this anymore? There's another one over here. Yeah, it's just pretty crazy to see like how big these are. And you know, like the architecture is just like really cool on these buildings. There's like I'm gonna go down this path. So like I normally go down to a different park, and it's really wet back there, and I told him, like, hey, you told me about this place, and I'm gonna keep going back there. I mean, I see cars over here, but I don't think they use this anymore. I don't know. This is kind of a cool little statue right here that I'm gonna show you guys, but it's just like a huge plaza of like beautiful buildings. That these are probably, I don't know how old these are, but obviously they weren't built yesterday. But this is like Catholic. This is like these are Catholic buildings, and it says 1931. So I think they built it in like 1931. It's almost 100 years old, and you can see how big that is. It's pretty cool, you know what I mean? It kind of seems like a relic. Like, I don't think that they really use these. I don't know. I'd have to do some more research and see if they. That one over here, the one I was over here, just seems kind of abandoned. But if you look at these, there's a building over here. There's a senior center over here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's got like castle, like kind of a feel to it at the top. You know, where the guards used to go and like probably throw down oil on the enemy or shoot bows and arrows at them. It's pretty crazy, man. Pretty crazy. Pretty interesting, you know, like I want this video to I was if I could talk. So I guess there's a study that came out that oh man, I gotta chill for a second because I don't like people being around me when I'm making videos. So there was this like study, apparently it came out, and that's going to be the thumbnail of this video, and it said that married couples have a better chance of basically having dementia. Like, I didn't look into the details of the study or whatever, but because I really don't care about that. I don't know. I just kind of like link things up together. And so like my thing with dementia, you know, kind of like a couple of books I've studied is basically, and like YouTubers and doctors and stuff, what it seems like when people suffer through dementia. And for me, I think that I really screwed my brain up when I was younger. I think if I didn't smoke all the weed that I smoked when I was younger, or went through like the traumas when I was younger, which aren't like debilitating, obviously, the traumas. People have it way worse than I've ever had it. What it seems like is we have to balance patterns and routines. So like I asked Grok, our routines, or like, you know, doing the same thing all the time, does that contribute to people having dementia? Because my thing is like, if you're just doing the same routine every single day, the same thing over and over again, you're not switching things up, you're not trying nothing new, you're not trying to learn, you're just doing the same thing every day. I think it starts closing parts of your brain off. You don't have as much neurons firing, and then those parts of your brain start to die. That's like, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, somebody in the chat, and somebody who is either a troll or is an expert will be able to, you know, they'll point it out if they see this. But yeah, I think that, and I could be wrong, like I'm not a brain doctor, but I think like that's what happens if you stop learning different things. It doesn't, like, you don't use your whole brain, and when you don't use your whole brain, like if you just do the same thing all the time, it kills that part of your brain. And I think that aids dementia, and I think that, like, I think it's really helped my brain out with all the adapting I've had to do in my lifetime. Like this is one of them, you know, I'm not going to the same place. Like you see some of my videos, and like I'm not doing it every day going to the same place, but like, you know, you get stuck in a pattern, you get stuck in a routine. And especially like raising kids, because kids need like the same type of routine growing up. They need to have that security. I'm not saying like you don't throw new things at them so they can try. I'm not saying that, but like they need like the same type of routine when it comes like, I gotta go to bed at 9, because like it really helps with the sleep. You gotta make sure your sleep's on point. That's a huge thing, I think. Like, sleep is important. Also diet, and they say activity. So what I think is happening with younger people getting dementia is, I think that they are basically just playing video games, and they're not trying nothing new. And like, since they're not doing anything new, trying something different, that's what happens. And that's, you know, like those parts in their brains which should be like developing, or neurons could be flying back and forth, are dying, you know, because they're just using a certain part. You use the same, because basically if you do the same thing all the time, you can feel yourself get put on the pattern of the NPC type of deal, where you go in like in your own like biological AI type of deal, where your own like you don't have to like really be present, you know, like the same thing like when you drive to work, and you don't even like have to really be conscious. You have to be, you know, if you know cars, and be aware of stuff like that, but like you don't even think about it, you just go, and you don't, it's just kind of like automatic, you know. Or like if you're doing a repetitive job and it's kind of like the same thing every day, you do the same thing over and over again, you kind of like lose consciousness, honestly. Like I felt it in myself. And I think that, like, you know, when they say there's a big portion of our society that doesn't, they're basically looked at as like NPCs. Okay, there's a sign that says no trespassing. I don't know, I'm gonna go this way. I think this place I've never been this way before, so I would think you should be able to come back here. Anyway, so well, I guess I'll get a ticket or something if I mean, I'll leave. I'm not trying to trespass. I don't know what that is, but like this is just a road. I don't know. I would think that there'd be a lot of trespassing, like no trespassing signs, but I'm not trying to get into trouble. But what I think is like, yeah, that's happening a lot, and it's crazy how like younger people are suffering from dementia, and I think that's a big contributor, and that's why I think that people need to balance. You know, you don't want to sit here and just like be a workaholic all the time. You know, it's kind of like lifting weights. If you like do the same thing all the time, same routine, lifting weights, and you think you're gonna make gains or any type of progress, you're not. You plateau. You know, you might not be losing anything, but you might not be gaining anything either, when, you know, like gaining fat or whatever. But you plateau, so you have to switch it up. You got to switch it up. You know, if you look, that's why people add heavier weights, you know, or you go lighter and do more reps. You know, you confuse your muscles, and I think that's what we have to do with our brains. And if, like, I think the kids nowadays are so overstimulated with electronics and the screen time. That's why it's good to have like a balance of screen time. And I think that it is good. I'm not one of these people that say, oh, kids shouldn't be on any type of video games at all. Or like, I think social media they don't really need to be on social media. They don't, you know, I mean, there's some cool things with the internet that they can be on. There's certain parts where they can learn and stuff, but you know, I'm not one of these anti-technology people, obviously. So you have to balance it, you know. And I think that there's a lot of these kids that just aren't getting the balance in their life. You know what I mean? And I also think that, like, I think that overall, I think that women are way more adaptive than men are. Not all, just generally speaking, because when I say that, and I was thinking about this, you know, back when I was younger, if I liked a band, right, and or a genre of music, and I met a woman, chances are she'll start liking what I like. She'll adapt to what I like. I don't think they're as adaptive nowadays. I think that's the thing, is it's such a weird situation of what we're into nowadays. And if you can see like the buildings in the back, yeah, it's pretty crazy. I guess that's where they park their cars, back here. But like, those buildings are absolutely beautiful and massive, man. So this is pretty cool back here. Like, if I was an old person, I would love to live back here, man. That big old building, you guys didn't see it, but and they got a little organic farm right here. It's pretty cool. So that's what I think is happening with people, is they get stuck in a repetitive thing, and they don't try to learn anything new. And I kind of noticed this with myself. What I like to do is play sports games. And I like to be a general manager. I like to trade. There's a lot of I love trade. I love making deals, honestly. I remember playing fantasy football, and I love trying to figure out like different trades to try to, you know, basically, somebody has a bad team and they have a good player I want, and I would try to get like my crap players who, they're good, they're productive, but I try to package them together to get that better player, so I have a more solid lineup to have more beef in it, instead of kind of like, yeah, like that, you know. But the difference is, one on them is like, they have that really good player, but then they have a bunch of crap, so it kind of evens things out a little bit for them. And that's like something, I think it's in my blood, you know. Like, my last name is, in German, basically means merchant or trader or whatever, and I think that's something that's in my blood. But what I would do is, like, playing a video game is like, I get repetitive, do the same thing, build an awesome team, and then I get bored. And then I destroy it, try it, and build something new. I want to do it again. But then get like continuously doing that, not trying new things, not listening to different music. And I just think that like what happens is, you know, what they're saying is like try to learn an instrument. I think that we get older, especially with men. This is pretty cool right here, a little building. I like that. Well, especially with men, I think that like we get stuck in our ways way quicker than women do. And I think that's why a lot of women are like, they seem like they're more open-minded to different things. So what I think is happening is in the marriage, people get stuck in the routines. They go to work, they get up, they do the same job, they might be doing the same thing, they get home, you know, and this contributes to women not, you know, they get bored in a relationship, they don't feel fulfilled. And I think that's a big contributor to a lot of divorces. And I know it's like, how the heck can that woman leave that guy? Like, that guy's got it. Like, does she really think that she can get better than that guy? You know what I mean? It's like, he makes money, he's doing all the things, but it's like, maybe like he doesn't really pay attention to her. Maybe he doesn't really appreciate her and appreciate the things that she does for him. So what happens is she stops emotionally being attracted to him, and you know, she'll still stay with him because he provides everything. Obviously it's not really prevalent nowadays as much as it was back in the old days, but yeah, that's what, you know, like not switching things up and not being more spontaneous. You don't have to like do major changes like I've been doing in my life, where, you know, yeah, you do the job or whatever, and like you know, for me, like learning different things, learning different jobs, going different places, I think it really puts an explosion of neurons, you know, and when you do the same thing over and over, you do stop appreciating it, you know, because it just feels natural, you know, it feels like comfortable. And I think that's what it is. I think that people get too comfortable in their lives, and they don't, you know, they might get to a certain level in their lives when they're doing a lot of things, but then like they kind of neglect other things. And there's only so much time in a day, honestly, but like even little things, you know, it's just what it is challenging your brain, you know, like, you know, I read listened, whatever. I retained the information either way, so so this book basically said that our prefrontal cortex absolutely makes us so much better than every animal on earth. Makes me wonder if we're even like naturally biologically part of this world, if we were engineered or something like that. I don't know. But this is is this no trespassing, really? Private property of what, fields? So stupid. Like, okay. Look at this. No trespassing sign. I can't go this way, so I have to go this way. You know, I'm gonna follow. It's like, what am I trespassing on? Like, what am I trespassing? Look at that. What am I trespassing? It doesn't make any sense. There's nothing here but fields. Anyway, I could turn around at this point then. I don't need to come back here if that's how it is. So like whatever I was talking about, I hope that people can like connect the dots to what I'm saying. 25. Like it basically, it was saying, you know, our prefrontal cortex doesn't stop developing until we're 25. And smoking is not good. And that makes sense because when you smoke, you're stopping the oxygen going to your brain. And then obviously like your brain needs a lot of oxygen, like it needs oxygen or whatever. So like when I advocate for marijuana. I say like 21, whatever, alcohol, 21, whatever. I say wait till you're 25 to do that stuff if you care about developing your prefrontal cortex. And I think that's a huge thing that a lot of people don't know. You know, I didn't know this. I didn't know these types of things. And these things are huge when it comes to like developing your brain and preventing dementia and stuff like that. Like what did they say? They said diet's important, not smoking's important. You know, you know, they say do like word puzzles, but if you do the same ones, you just like you're not challenging. You're not doing enough challenging. And like, you don't have to go from beginner to expert, but it's like, give yourself a little bit more of a challenge. You know what I mean? I think that like, it's so easy to get stuck in comfort. You know what I mean? So you have to balance that. And I think that people in the future, if this happens, if this comes to fruition where, you know, robots are doing all of our jobs in 20 years, or most of our jobs anyway, let's just say hypothetically that happens, which will be a very big beneficial to me since Social Security is pretty much gone. And it's hard as hell to save anything for retirement right now. It's been, honestly. But people are going to have to artificially challenge themselves. This is why you see rich people doing like ice dumps and stuff, like ice dunks, where they're submerging themselves in, you know, really frigid water, which is good for you. It's healthy for you. You know what I mean? There's like a lot of health benefits with that. But they might have like mental challenges, you know, but you gotta challenge your body as well. So like there will be retreats in the future where people go to challenge themselves, you know, and I think that's what we need more of, and to help people get off of their bad habits. You know, like the way things are right now, where we just like get a couple weeks off a year if we're lucky. Like I'm about to start, I know I'm gonna start working somewhere. There's no way I'm not gonna be able to find a job where I'm going. Even like I said, I'll work at anything. But where was I going with that? Damn it. I throw myself off all the time. That's that dementia kicking in. Oh, by the way, I will get the brain implants if I have dementia. If my brain is too far gone, there ain't no way that I'm gonna be relying on other people to take care of me. So I'm not afraid of, oh, there's gonna be they can control your brain. Like, dude, I'm not gonna get the first ones that come out. The first ones that are coming out are already out right now. They're testing it on humans. So the Neuralink, there's gonna be other Neuralinks, and I'll be damned if like my memory's that bad. There's no way. I think that like, I also don't think that it's we don't need to upload the internet and everything to our brain. But I do think that there's going to be something where when we get these chips and we have access to the internet and access to all the information, you'll be able to kind of use it as like maybe like a second brain, you know, where basically it helps. And maybe there'll be neuron, like what is those called, like little tiny nanobots that help keep your brain. I don't know what's gonna, you know, who the hell knows what the hell they create in the future, but it'll help create stimulation in your brain. But there's only so much, I feel like there's only so much knowledge that this biological brain can hold, okay? And when we get like access to chips or anything like that, it's gonna kind of be like an extra brain, an extra like memory reserve, so you can go ahead and tap into that instead of trying to memorize everything. Well, like, we don't need to memorize everything. I only need to know, like, if I have to go into that type of thing, like a different type of scenario, or try something different, instead of like trying to reinvent the wheel myself. Hi, how's it going?
Good, have a nice weekend.
You too. How you doing? So like, I think that's probably what's gonna happen with, like, it's like an extra memory bank basically for our brains. Yeah, I just feel like there's just so much information that our brains can only take in so much, honestly. Like, I've always heard that we use like 10% of our brain or whatever, and I don't know if that's true. Maybe we'll be able to unlock our whole brain, and maybe we'll go insane. Maybe none of that's true anyway. But I do feel like a limitation of how much information I can take in, until I kind of feel like it's overwhelming and I'm just like burnt out and I'm tired and I don't want to, you know what I mean? I think that there's like limitations to how much we can take in. I don't know if that has anything to do with IQ or whatever, but it could. Who the hell knows, man? Like, I don't know. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty crazy coming up in the future. I think it's gonna be good. I hope it's good, you know. And I embrace technology. I'm not afraid of technology, and honestly, I'm not afraid of AI just getting rid of us. It might get, we're already getting rid of ourselves, honestly. Like, people aren't having as many kids as they used to, so like, what do you think is going to happen to the humans in the future? There's going to be less humans. There already is. Maybe we are at peak, or we've already hit peak of how many humans have been on this planet at the same time. But we're definitely going down, because this isn't just an America thing. This is a global thing. And obviously, like, some other countries aren't as bad as other countries. Like, Japan's like really bad, and I think China is as well, but they don't want to let anyone to know what's going on over there. The art of war, that's what they're doing. Concealing. They want to be perceived as strong, which they are. I'm not saying they're not, but anyway, like, I'm trying to get out, like, this politics or whatever. No one wants to hear about that, I guess. So, yeah, like, I think that, like, for me, what I'm gonna have to get into is actually reading more and making myself stop automating it. So like, my biggest problem, why I've always hated reading, is because it's extremely boring to me. Sometimes I just read too fast, and it's just too much for me to take in and kind of absorb. I honestly just kind of look for keywords. I kind of skim, you know what I mean? I just like the details of or a or the or anything like that. I just like skim over because it really doesn't mean much to me. I just kind of look at for words that kind of stick out, honestly. Just skim right through it. That works for me, you know, to read every single detail about everything. Just like I'm when I ask Grok something, right? Grok puts out all of this analysis, and I'm just like, just tell me yes or no. Fact check this. Is it true? Yes or no? Because I don't need to know the details about everything. That's just too much information for me to obtain. I don't know if we're going more towards the kind of way I am compared to everyone else who are like usually specialists. But I just think that like if you can have like when somebody asks me, what are your hobbies or what are your interests? I'm always like, I get brain dead, boom. Because there's so many and it changes. You know, like I definitely have hobbies I like. But I have a vast amount of interests in a lot of different things. And I do think that's helped my brain out a ton. But, you know, I'm an open-minded person. I feel like I'm way more open-minded than most men my age. And when I was growing up, men that are older than me too. So I feel like I'm more of an outlier. Maybe I'll flourish in the future. Right now I'm not, because you have to be specialized. So, you know, you got to have that specialty. And I'm not sure if we're going to need that anymore with the robots. Like, let's just say I decided to go to school for computer programming or whatever. Well, yeah, we're not gonna need a ton of computer programmers if like we have AI doing all those jobs. Well, not all of it, but you have somebody controlling AI to do all those jobs. And I think that we already have enough computer programmers. You know what I mean? So it just kind of seems like a pointless thing for me to learn at this point, unless we have a collapse. It's like what's the point for me to learn how to farm? Like I don't have any use for that in my daily life. I don't farm unless it's something that like I'm interested in. You know what I mean? And back in the old days, people used to farm. That's all they used to. That was their specialty. They farmed. Well, you know, it's kind of like also when I don't care about learning how to fix a car. It's getting so sophisticated that it's not like it was in the basic old days when you had like, was it a 1-cylinder or a 2-cylinder, and then they started going up higher and stuff for more horsepower. It's not basic and simple no more, man. There's all kinds of like computer stuff in these vehicles. So I'll probably just walk this way. See, you guys have I'm gonna cut this video off really soon because I'm almost done walking through here. But yeah, it's just kind of, it feels pointless for me to learn that stuff when I don't, you know, I can learn it and find a job, but it's just like those cars. You know how many 1-cylinder or 2-cylinder cars are on the road? Like it's such a relic, and you know what I mean? Like I've seen technology just explode in my lifetime. To have what I'm recording with on my phone, there's so many different things that I would need a huge space for to be able to do what my phone does, to store it. You know, like back in the old days, like I would have like a huge camera to be able to have to do this and carry it around. But now I have my phone, and it has so many different capabilities of things it can do. You know, going from that point in my life to seeing like, and technology could just halt. it could just halt at this point and we don't evolve anymore. But I really don't think so. I listen to like some of the smartest people on the planet, or I have in my lifetime, and they're all saying like the same things. It seems like, you know, like technology is going to be the world is going to be completely different in 10, 20 years than what it is now. And that goes with what it was. That's what it's like now. The world is completely different from 10, 20 years ago. And I think this is going to excel. And it'll probably be like 5, 10 years where things are completely different. Who knows? You know, this is what I've seen. And I see more technology evolving, and yeah, so it's hard to plan for the future, honestly. So the best thing to do is obviously you have to make sure your finances are cool, but you have to make sure your health is good, and you have to make sure your brain is good, man. And I think that people neglect the brain so much. You know, like they don't try to learn anything. They just get to a certain age where it's like, I'm done. I'm not learning anything else. And, you know, maybe I'll get to that point. And it might happen in a couple of years where I'm just like, I'm done. I get stuck in my ways. Who the hell knows? You know what I mean? Usually that happens around this age where a lot of people are just stuck in their ways. I'm so flexible and open-minded that I think if that does happen to me, it'll be longer. So like, you know, people probably think that I'm a little bit younger. I get that a lot. I've got that a lot in my life where I look younger than I really am. And people are like, oh, that's 5 years. People say, oh, since I'm in mid-40s, people might say, oh, you look like you're 40 or something like that. You know, like when I was like 35, people would be like, no way, you're like 27 or something. I wonder if that has to do with like the lack of sun I've had, lack of stress. There is stress. Trust me, there is a lot of stress in my life. But I try to like mitigate that stress. I try to like not have any, and I try to have as less stress as possible. There's some good stress and just bad stress too. That I think that a person can have so much stress or whatever where it becomes a negative thing. Obviously, it's like anything. You know, you work out too much, it could be a negative. My thing is you just have to balance. You have to balance things. You know. So, and I think there's a lot of people that just pick one thing and they go with it, and they don't want to do anything else. They don't want to adapt. And you don't want to be like that. You want to keep adapting. You want to keep learning. You want to try different things, and not be stuck in the same thing. So yeah,